Hello and welcome to episode 93 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast. The podcast where we take a theme and we pick two films to fit that theme. But not this week. We're doing a lot of this lately. Well, I guess as always, I'm joined. Got no name for him because this is just a quick episode, if you will, for once. But I'm joined by John.
Hi.
Hello. You all right?
Yeah, it feels weird when I haven't got a weird introduction title or name or anything. But
well, yeah, it's going to feel weird for the listeners when they get 2 episodes 2 weeks in a row. They're going to be like, "What? What's going on?"
We should have just staggered the release, knowing us. Would have been.
They quit their job. No, we can't because what we're here to talk about today is Alex Garland's new film, Warfare. But
yes,
so we had to get it out before it comes out in cinemas, so you guys know whether it's worth going to see or not. But obviously, I mean, John, what have you been doing the past week? Has everything been all right?
Yeah, all good. I've, to be honest, after the last episode, Jamie and I were talking a lot about Greta Gerwig because we'd watched Lady Bird, and Jamie said, "I think you'll really like Little Women." So I watched Little Women for the first time, and I did like it. I didn't like it as much as Lady Bird, I'm not going to lie, but I always struggle with period pieces of that era. So like 19th century kind of America is just not a period that ever really like does anything for me, and I don't know what it is, but also like controversial, but I never really like the Western period kind of stuff either. Like for me, it's like it all starts around like 1930s 40s is where my interest takes off, or it goes right back to the Romans or the Greeks. Like there's no like kind of in between, like swords and sandals stuff. But anyway, in terms of why I was interested, I mean, obviously there's quite a few cast members who were in Lady Bird who are like follow through into Little Women. I quite like the fact it's also a U, so I kept waiting for terrible things to happen. Then I saw it was a U, and I was like, "Oh no, this is a nice film."
This is a little bit of a sad thing that happens.
What's that? Sorry,
we won't. There is one little sad thing that happens. Yeah,
there is. But what I was trying to say was, and we said this when we watched Nora. Sometimes I think because I watch so many miserable things these days that I'm always expecting the misery to kick in. So you feel when you just watch something quite light, it was really nice. But basically, I had to do a little Google about the history of Little Women, so I knew it was a book. But then I was like, is the book based on reality? Like how far like is it? You know, where's the truth to it? So it's interesting reading about like the fiction versus the like the original what went on. But what a cast. I mean, to have, I can never say her name correctly. Please tell me the lead actress's name from Lady Bird.
Saoirse Ronan.
Thank you.
Saoirse Ronan, yeah.
Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, Laura Dern, Timothy Chalamet. I mean, geez, it's just like jam-packed. Meryl Streep's in it as well. I mean, that was just kind of went under the radar as well. And Chris Cooper, sorry. So, incredible cast. Nice performances from nice performances from everybody. I love the fact it's shot on film because I remember Spielberg said, you need to film this on film, like this story, like you need to do it, you need to experience it, because Lady Bird was shot digitally and made to look like film, which we covered on the last episode, but this was shot on film and you see those little pops every so often and the grain, and just like they just lean into it rather than shy away from it, and it's a beautiful looking film, but just quite no spoilers, but like it's like life. It's like, again, it's another coming of age really, but coming of age in a very different time where based in society, when you came of a certain age, your options were very limited, and like finding out about that and seeing a modern interpretation of that story is really interesting. So I didn't like it as much as Lady Bird. I'll be honest, that's more because in period dramas in general aren't really my go-to. However, very, very good. And I did enjoy it. Didn't love it. I think Lady Bird, I genuinely thought I loved that film. I think it just hit a chord. This I really, really liked. And that's okay.
I saw it in the cinema. I saw it in the cinema in 2019, and it was
okay.
2019 was the year I saw most films in the cinema, which you'll know if you listen to the last episode. But I remember I was just going to see everything. I got a limited pass, and I was like, well, even if I've got no one to go with, I'm going on my own. And actually, it's really weird thinking back, actually, because there was obviously a lot of things around that time. I want to say The Invisible Man came around that time as well. And I just remember cinemas were much busier, and people had a lot more respect, actually, back in 2019 compared to what they do now. Like, by the way, we'll talk about like this Minecraft thing that's going on at the moment. It's crazy. But yeah, no, I love Little Women so much, and I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. Like you said, the cast is brilliant, and it's just a really sweet story, really, and it's just really well done. It's the only one I've seen, actually. I think there's 3 versions. But yeah, there's obviously it's just like a slice of life, isn't it? Like as you said, coming of age. And I think that what was I going to say? The Timothée Chalamet character, because obviously it's all about, back then it's about finding a suitor, isn't it? Like finding the person to like, not just, it's not just about kind of if they make you laugh or not, or if you think they're good looking. It's about their career and stuff, isn't it? Which, I mean, I guess it's still a little bit like that today with, I don't know, certain people. But and by the way, that sounds really ominous. Like I know someone like that certain really people, John. You know, John. You know that certain person we know that married him for his money. No, I've got no idea. But yeah, great. It's a great film. But yeah, by the way, yeah, it just reminded me of the Minecraft stuff that's going on. Have you seen like all of the ridiculous behavior in the cinema?
They're comparing it to like the modern day Rocky Horror Show in terms of audience engagement, and it started as like a viral TikTok thing, and then people that are just buying tickets to be part of this one moment. But do you know what? They were saying like the film's done way better than anyone ever expected, despite the fact I don't think it's done critically particularly well, but it's just caught this weird trend. It's got a bit of the Morbius about it, but I think it's doing a lot better than Morbius did.
It's got a bit of the Morbius about, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Like, kind of getting that re-release now. I was like, oh my God, like maybe we've got a hit on our hands. It's like they're trolling you. But anyway.
So I've not seen the stuff about Rocky Horror, which is quite interesting because actually that's the thing that there's a lot of cinemas putting up posters saying, do not, if you misbehave in this screening, you will be ejected and you will not be refunded. There are people like throwing popcorn in the air and screaming and cheering and like I've seen a video with like just everyone with their phone out. I'm just like, if I was in this screening, I'll be getting arrested afterwards, I think. Because
I don't understand though, like why what the reaction's about. It's just obviously an in-joke I just don't get. But like,
it's just a meme, is it a meme about like some? In fact, you know what? I'm not even going to attempt.
Let's not even engage with it. So there we go.
No,
but interesting audience interaction. But with this, how do we get onto this point? Because Jamie saw his film at the cinema. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some people saying that cinemas might start doing like screenings with phones where you're allowed your phone in, and I'm just like,
defeats the object of being in the cinema anyway.
Yeah, so anyway, but yeah, that's extremely annoying. But anyway, I was saying to John, like, I've not really watched anything like since the last pod, because we podded like less than a week ago. However, I did watch a film finally. So I managed to go to CEX, and whenever I pass a CEX, I'll always go in and look at the Blu-rays and the 4Ks and just see what they've got, because they've usually got a few gems in there. And I managed to pick up, finally, a film called The Driver on 4K by Walter Hill, who I absolutely love. Walter Hill, if anyone doesn't know, he directed The Warriors, 48
Alien, right?
Hours. Who?
Walter Hill was one of the producers on Alien as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He wrote Alien 3. He was one of the writers on Alien 3. John, it always comes back to Alien 3.
Sorry.
But no, it's fine. It's great. But in terms of his director, I love him as a director. So he's done Southern Comfort, which is a banger. Streets of Fire, which is a banger. Red Heat's fine. Hard Times, which is a really good film. But he also did one of my favourites ever, The Warriors. So I finally managed to get hold of The Driver. And the reason why I say I finally got hold of it, it's not hard to get hold of. It's just, it's always 25 quid. And I'm like, I don't really want to pay that for a film I haven't seen. So I managed to pick it up for £12.
Excellent.
4K, CEX, shot on film. It looks like, to be honest, obviously it's shot on film because it's a 1978 film. But it's shot on like 2K, I think, by the looks of it. It's a 2K scan. But this is basically, you realise that actually Drive was probably really inspired by this. It's basically starring Ryan O'Neal. It's got Bruce Dern, who's brilliant in it, who's the detective, and it's basically just about this driver. And do you remember the game Driver on PS1?
Vaguely, yes. Yeah, there was two of them, right?
There was there was two of them. Then there was a third one that came out for PS3. But Driver on PS1, you couldn't get past the first level because it was so hard, and you were in this what's it called, a multi-story car park, and you've got to do like donuts and figure of eights around all these, and there is a scene exactly like that in The Driver. So I was like, right, so obviously the game's based off that. So he basically just specializes in driving getaway cars for robberies, and he's never been caught, and basically Bruce Dern is on his tail. There's a lot of like the driving in it, believe it or not, is fantastic. But there's a lot. It's very cat and mouse. Like Bruce Dern like knows that he's after him. Like he knows he's like he's basically everyone's setting everyone up, and it all comes down to like obviously one last job, as it would. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's really good. Like 98 minutes long. Like just fantastic. Really good fun. So I did actually watch that film. I'm sure I watched something else, but I can't.
Buffy.
I don't know. Oh, did I say I watched? Did I mention I watched Wayne's World?
Yes, you did last week.
I did.
Yeah.
I mentioned that on the last part. Okay, fine. So the only other thing I've been watching all week is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
Oh god, yeah.
I'm now on season 2. I'm probably episode 7 on season 2. I've had
You've got so
couple
much
of
good stuff to
ropey
come.
episodes.
Yeah, so basically, when you hit midway point, it's kind of when like it really ramps up, and that's why I keep pestering you, being like, "How many can you watch tonight?" Because you just kind of want to slam through a bit. Because
How many can you watch tonight?
I've had a few bad days. So like when so Harriet was away for a few days, and I had a free house for like 4 days, and I slammed through so much Buffy. I literally was like,
You didn't have a massive house party, and like
No, I'm 32, mate. I had a nice
your
quiet
wife
evening.
and child are away.
Yeah, watched had a nice quiet evening and watched like 2 DVDs of Buffy in like a day or something, like smashed it. No, I literally blitzed through like 4 episodes in a few sittings, just like happy as Larry. But season 3, I'm on season 3, James on season 2, and it's really tough because I so want to message him about what's going on, but I also don't want to ruin it for him because he like me, the series is so long, 22 episodes, you can't actually remember half the stuff.
Crazy,
you know
isn't it?
where it ends, but just like all the points in between, you're just like, oh, there's so much stuff I don't remember, and this is my first rewatch for like 10 years, so I'm just loving it. It's great. But my favourite character has always been Eliza Dushku's Faith, and like,
Why, John?
Because, well, look, I'll outright say it. As a teenager, I was absolutely in love with her. If
And
you've ever
as
seen
a 32-year-old man,
as a 30-year-old man, have you ever seen
I'm
Bring It On?
absolutely in love with her.
Have you
I've
seen
not
Bring It
seen
On?
No.
You've never seen Bring It On. So she was in the film Bring It On, which came out in like early 2000s, and that was Kirsten Dunst and her in a cheerleading competition. And remember when you're in like at school, when it's like the last week before some holidays and you're allowed to watch DVDs, and there's always like the DVDs that are just about appropriate to be shown to your
VHS when I
class.
was in school, John.
Okay, but like that was one of them. I remember seeing that, be like, oh my god, I love this, and I recognised her, and then I realised she was the one in Buffy, and then she never got a Buffy spin-off, and I was always gutted. And she did a show called True Calling, which got cancelled after like a season and a half. And I have the DVD box set
Didn't
from
she do
Kex for like
Dollhouse?
£2.50. She did Dollhouse, which I think was also well reviewed, to be fair, but also got cancelled after 2 seasons. But anyway, but she has an incredible arc across Buffy and Angel, and like Jamie and I were toying with the idea.
I thought you were going to say
like,
something else there. She's got an incredible arc.
yourself. And Jamie and I were like debating about, do we watch Angel? Because like it's quite a commitment. I'm fully on board of like, basically there's a watch list where it's like you need to watch this episode of Buffy, then this episode of Angel, because they used to cross over so much, and then in later seasons they don't as much. But I'm
So
on
WB
board
universe,
now.
mate. The first WB
Like
universe. That's what it was.
the original one. But anyway, we are. I don't know how many minutes in we actually are, but we should stop talking about Buffy because we do a little Buffy update like every week. So I'm going to stop now. But shall we talk about the main film today?
We should. So today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free early review of Warfare, which is directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza.
Look for the blood and the smoke. We're there. Eyes on me. Prepare for breakout. Yes, sir. On my count. 1, 2, 3.
So I did just want to say, lovely. Thank you to the Mockingbird for the invite. I've seen people saying thank you A24 as well. They don't even know us. I'm not going to thank them, but thanks to A24 for sending it to the Mockingbird, and for the Mockingbird for inviting us. But yeah, we went to this.
It's salty for no reason.
What do you mean? Look, I'm not going to make out that A24 contacted us because they didn't. I'm just going to tell the truth. Now,
Okay.
before we go into Warfare, I just do want to mention Alex Garland. I have a very complicated relationship with Alex Garland. Now, I really like some of the things that he's written, such as Dread, Sunshine,
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Oh, he directed that as well. However, there's a lot of things. Well, most of his films, I haven't seen Men, but I do not like Annihilation, Civil War, and I like Ex Machina. So we might be 2 for 2, like two out of 4 now that actually I quite like. So let's just.
Jamie and I almost did a link for this film, which was like about like co-directed movies. So obviously the Matrix trilogy, etc., and then also the Russo brothers films. Let's
We weren't going to do that.
into all that.
There was no
Anyway.
chance I was going to let
No, because
John.
it's no. But you make it out as me. But I was just listening to it. But the point I was trying to make was, it's really interesting to me who does what when you co-direct. Who does what? So is Garland doing like the emotional scenes, but then it's like, you know, or because Mendoza himself, Ray Mendoza, who was the co-director, this is based on an event which happened to him. He was a Navy SEAL, and he's advised like Hollywood for years on making like army sequences look real in films, but he says every director always has their own eye and interpretation, and this was the first time. I think maybe Civil War he also got the chance to, and I'm talking about Alex Garland's Civil War, but the chance to actually showcase it the way he believes it is, or his memory of it. And the reason he's made the film is because one of the SEALs in the film is played by Cosmo Jarvis. It's called Elliot. He doesn't actually really remember the incident. It's not a spoiler to say that it's kind of like post-traumatic stress disorder and all these things. I don't want to say that actually because I'm not completely sure if that is what it is, but he doesn't have memory of the event. So whatever the reason for that, he's dedicated this film to him, and there's a dedication at the end of the film. He's still alive, he's still with us, but it's in terms of what happened and showcasing that. And like people have said about this film, it feels... Go on.
Do you want to give us a synopsis?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
It's all right. Or I can, I don't mind.
Yeah, you give the synopsis, sorry, before I go any further.
Yeah, no, sorry. So, so just to so everyone knows what it's about. A really, really simple story. So it's just basically about a platoon of American Navy SEALs. They're on a surveillance mission, and they basically just trying to take over... like give surveillance, and while the army takes over these small parts of this territory in Iraq, and the surveillance mission goes wrong, and it's essentially just a really hyper realistic real-time kind of story of this platoon and what they experience. So John, carry on. Sorry.
On that, it's interesting. So I've read and watched a few interviews with Mendoza talking about his experience. And, you know, people said, was it difficult making the film because you're revisiting all these things? And he actually said it was quite therapeutic because there's a lot of things that people in the army don't discuss because they transition back to normal life, like civilian life, and they find it really difficult to talk about issues. And he said, actually, this was weirdly quite a cathartic experience in terms of actually being able to... I don't want to say his truth, but in terms of like showcasing what they went through. And I think what this film really does, and Joe and I will get into this, and I think in a similar vein to A Zone of Interest, is viscerally transferring feelings and how do I make this not sound pretentious? Basically making you feel like you're in it. There's no score. So first and foremost, there's no score. There's one song played at the start, which we'll talk about in a second. But the rest of it is just incredible sound design, but it puts you in the head of the soldiers. You hear what they hear in terms of when a shell blast goes off and you get the ringing. In most films you might get that for like 10-15 seconds, then it wears off. This film has it for multiple minutes of sequences, and there's multiple parts when there's people shouting over each other and you don't really know what's going on. There's also kind of they make a point of saying when they to the start of the film is overtaking a house, and basically it's what happens from that point on. That is the plot of the film and what happens in this house. But there's a family in the house who own it, and it's like the idea of being a family and your house is like broken into in the middle of the night. You've got a team of Navy SEALs telling you to sit down, be quiet, and it's like he was saying like there are so many grey areas in war, and he's like, you don't know where, like, it's such a complicated topic. He's like, war is obviously bad, and he said you see some of the best moments of humanity in war, and you see some of the worst, and it said it's very, very complicated. But one of the journalists who questioned him said, I actually felt for the family, not just the SEALs, and he said you should, because he said war is a grey zone and it's very complicated, and trying to get that across.
There's neutral people involved.
Exactly that, and it was really interesting how it didn't. It's weird. It's not an emotional film. This is the closest I've been to filming, being like I'm watching a documentary, much like A Zone of Interest. But A Zone of Interest actually had more plot than this, and that was very plot light. But you were watching day to day, ongoing, over a period of time, as in over like a series of months or years. This is just outright. The next hour and a half is what happened in that 90-minute period.
Yeah, it's complete real time. Yeah, and it's filmed almost like a documentary. It's filmed like there's a person there filming the soldiers and what's going on and what's going through their heads, and what they're experiencing and what they're feeling, and the fear and all that. And I thought it was actually, like, as I was saying earlier on, like the beginning of the film, it says everything is based on memory, and I was like, oh my god, why can Alex Garland not just do something
based
normal and be like, I didn't know whether it was gonna I didn't know whether it was gonna be like, oh, it's like, this is a film about warfare, like, but with a twist, like. But to be honest, the reason for that is because the whole recreation of this whole film is based on the soldiers' memories. So one thing that I saw in an interview is really interesting, was that memories are, obviously everyone's memory is different of like a situation. So when John and
is real.
Yeah, when John and I went to the Mockingbird last week, I was banging jokes out, like hilarious as always, and John's like, well, I don't remember any of that. But that, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's memory of a situation is different, and so when these men were put in that situation with concussion and high pressure and stress, there was lots of things that they were forgetting or misremembering, or like maybe people would just interpret this situation completely differently. And that's really interesting how he's tried. Alex Garland's done is, and Ray Mendoza, they've tried to create this to as accurate as possible, exactly what happened. And it was quite strange to me when I did. So we're not going to spoil anything. Like, it was quite strange to me when I was seeing some like pretty like sniffy reviews, or like half a star reviews on Letterboxd, calling it propaganda, which I just found quite strange. For example, John, I'm not going to shame the person. A soulless, insidious piece of pseudo-realistic propaganda. A film that postures as an anti-war statement while reveling in the exact kind of mindless, fetishized destruction that makes war look like an adrenaline-fueled power fantasy. And I was just like, what was... There was none of that. Like, because I felt like what was depicted was terrifying. It was horrifying. And actually, there are moments in it. Anyone out there... So we have had a question... which we'll just go into. Patch writes in, he says, can a war film have an independent or centrist voice, or are they always going to be perceived as propaganda? So I think that obviously,
this is like definitely not propaganda. Like, for me, propaganda is, the joke about like Top Gun 1 is like the best recruitment video that the Air Force ever had, and was
American
for like 20,
Sniper.
30 years.
American Sniper, is that like a little bit like that, like Hail America, like
I don't know. I think American Sniper is a more story-driven version of this. So very similar in terms of showing the mundanity of like, and what I'm trying to say about that is that Jarhead does that thing where he's desperate to see action the whole time, and then basically he doesn't, and it's like the struggle of that, like mentally preparing yourself for these situations, then not.
I haven't seen it.
Not happening. You like it because Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's literally on my shelf just here.
This film is very not Murica. Do you know what I mean? In the sense of like, if you're thinking like a Michael Bay kind of like something like the Island, not the Island. What's the one? The Rock or Transformers 1 or whatever. This is not that at all. This is basically a veteran trying to give you the most realistic account of something that's happened, and it's horrible things like, how are you going to find us? Look for the blood in the sand or smoke, was it, or something? And it's just like, Jesus.
Look for the blood in the smoke.
Yeah, and
yeah.
There's some, funnily enough, you see some horrendous war violence in this, and there is no way it glamorizes or fetishizes anything. I've no idea. Is that one of those reviews that someone's written and not watched the film, potentially?
So someone's I would really be pushed to say that they've not seen the film, because there's nothing glamorous about this at all. And actually, like, although the people, to answer Patch's question, I think that with this kind of thing, people will always say, whenever it's obviously an American film made like from the American side, about Iraq, so obviously it doesn't go into any politics at all. It simply drops you into these people. And if anything, I would say that one thing I did actually quite like about it is that it showed like this and again, like, light spoilers, they go into a family's home, and the family's home gets trashed, you know, like, and it's kind of the family have then got to deal with the aftermath of their home being trashed by American soldiers. And it's like, well, the mission takes priority. And that's, for me, that's crazy, because I was like, imagine someone did that to my house. Like, I've
just
got a mortgage,
your door down, and then, you know,
I've got to fix all that. So no, I don't think it, and I don't think it wasn't even in any way, shape, or form. I don't particularly think it villainized the Iraqis either, like, because it was just very much a clash of two sides. What I loved about it as well is it's clearly an anti-war film. It just shows the complete and utter
pointlessness
of
all of it.
Yeah, pointlessness, the horror.
It feels like nothing achieved, nothing's gained for like anybody.
Yeah,
and like
it's crazy.
And it does a very good depiction of like depicting how senseless it is without getting to the politics of any of it. I think it's weird. I said to Jamie, and this staggered me, so this film was based, was it 2005 or 2006?
2006.
So I was like, that's nearly 20 years ago now. So are we going to enter this era now where we're going to get lots of films about the Iraq War? Because remember, like, there was loads of films about the Vietnam War, and there were films like reflecting on the Vietnam War. So like Aliens is a film that's like about that situation, but not, you know, like that kind of thing.
We have had quite a few films about the Iraq War.
We have, but I feel like when you get to a period where it's far enough in your history that it's kind of looked upon differently. But you're right. There was Catherine Bigelow did
Zero Dark 30.
Zero Dark 30, and there was a film before that I've forgotten the name of, Hurt Locker. This reminded me of that kind of vein in terms of
American Sniper is also about that, isn't it?
American Sniper for me is more of don't want to give spoilers. American Sniper it's more narrative driven. Just put it that way. It's more narrative driven.
Okay, fine.
And I do really like that film. I think Jamie and I used to joke when we first started watching, and when we first started doing the pod, Harriet has like there's certain Blu-rays that she'd always asked to rewatch, and American Sniper was one of them. And then I'd ended up seeing it like 4 times in about 2 years. And I just said, look, it's good, but like, I don't need to watch it again. Like, I've done it.
That's so funny, man.
No offense, but it's done. And it's not exactly like a fun watch. What I mean by that is it's a really serious film. Do you know what I mean? It's not uplifting in any way, shape, or form. And that film deals with kind of like, and it's kind of mentioned in this film. So this film, I think we should talk a little bit about the SEALs themselves. So the training, Mendoza, the co-director, got the actors to train like SEALs for 3 weeks. They did a very, very shortened version of what they did, but he taught them the army techniques. They've all got tattoos, and they've got matching tattoos, or majority of them. Some of them still haven't got it yet, but it's Call on Me, which was a song they used to pump themselves up before they went out. Because they were saying, like, you know, Mendoza said when we were in Iraq, like, it's like streaming, so you had to have like a USB stick with videos and stuff on. So they all used to watch the Call on Me video, which is at the start of the film. And he also said we put that sequence in because we realised the next hour and a half was going to be absolute, like, the most serious of serious. So we needed something to kind of like let the steam off, or whatever the saying. But anyway, so they kind of give you that, and then you hard cut to like silence in the street, and then off we go on the mission. But the camaraderie they showcase on the film, like, I'm no military expert, but I feel like it looks to the average person like myself like they know what they're doing, and like the tactics and all those things. And again, I don't feel like those are glamorized. I feel like it's just showcasing what they would do. There's no like heroic moment where someone does something and you get a big slow motion sequence or anything. It's, for me, a lot of the film's about confusion. Because I didn't get this till Mendoza's interview, which I shared with you earlier, which was a lot of him saying, we're making really massive decisions when people are literally concussed, like, and trying to like do anything in that situation. Never mind make life or death decisions for teams, etc.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he does a really good depiction of showcasing the confusion of everything, and the violence, but just the confusion around making those decisions, and also so many parts where like what if moments. I think it does because the soldiers are reflected on this time and they say about what they wish they'd done differently. The film gets really poignant moments where one of the soldiers will be like, I wish I'd taken that shot, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. They don't say it all in very simple looks, but there's about 3 moments in this film where someone makes a decision to either do something or not do something, which then obviously affects what comes later. And I think I really appreciate films which are like show don't tell, and this film is absolutely show don't tell. They're basically speaking in army the whole time. There's no normal dialogue or conversations. It is all army speak. And they were saying the actors themselves did that, didn't they? You go into
Will Poulter. Yeah, so Will Poulter is the commanding officer, and he's do you know what? And what a brilliant voice he has. I was thinking all the way through. I was like, he's got such a good voice, and he sounds great all the way through. But yeah, Will Poulter. They were saying that when they were kind of hanging out, they would arrive on set. He's like, right, we need to arrive at 0630 hours or whatever they would say. And they'd be like, we need to be out of makeup by 700 hours. And so they were speaking like that the whole way through. And that was obviously part of their training. But they said that, like, yeah, there was a real kind of like brotherhood there. Like they went bowling and went for a curry and stuff. And they kind of really bonded. And it was a really nice experience on set. But they did, this was filmed in only 3 weeks.
It's crazy,
which is yeah, it is crazy.
And they were saying the amount of setups they were doing in a day was like far surpassed what you do on any Hollywood project. But also,
they said, did they say they were 2 days ahead? They said they were 2 days ahead on the first few hours.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
The way it's shot as well, I don't want to do disservice to it. I bet it was choreographed quite a lot before, because you know where you're getting from 8 point to C to D, because he knows the actions he took in that event. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So actually, I suppose like you're very set with like what's going to happen. And there's probably not much room for interpretation. And then
it's interesting.
Go on.
I was going to say the cinematographer, David J. Thompson. So this is the first time that Alex Garland hasn't used his normal cinematographer. So it's the first time in any of his films. So David J. Thompson, actually, he was the camera operator for Civil War and a couple of the Hunger Games films. So it's quite interesting that he has obviously done action before, but maybe Civil War you could argue, but nothing to this level.
But again, this for me, it's not an action film. There's a lot of warfare.
The first half an hour, the first 25 minutes.
Is it?
Yeah, the first 25 minutes is very slow. It's a very slow pace. But as I say, you're living it in real time. So, but yeah, it's in case you can't notice, me and John both think it's brilliant.
Yeah, sorry. I it's always difficult with films. They say, "Did you enjoy it?" I mean, do I think it's a good film? I think it's genuinely. If I'm doing out of 5, I'd say 4.5 star. I think genuinely.
Really? Would you? Like, that's crazy.
Should I tell you why? Because it's very little dialogue, but I felt like I was in it. It made me wince like a horror film would, in terms of like that visceral reaction, which we've talked about a lot in the past few years, in terms of my stomach for things like that. There's some parts I genuinely couldn't look at because of what it was depicting. But in terms of like when grenades or flashbangs go off, like the way it made you, you know, the experience of that and how that's depicted is so cleverly done, and I appreciate the fact it doesn't seem to pass judgment on any side. I think it's
a cinema film, isn't it? Though you've got to see.
This is what happens. I think it's one of those films that would be less effective out of the cinema, and also because you can look at your bloody phone and it's going to completely take you out of it. Like, it felt like this film couldn't be longer than an hour and a half, though, because to keep that tension would be absolutely. I'd be exhausted, because it was an hour and a half, but we were done by the end of it. But as someone said, it's as visceral a war film as you'll ever see. Like the start of Saving Private Ryan, but throughout the entire thing. That's the only way I can kind of describe it, but not the same as that, but that kind of intensity. Sorry, how about yourself?
No, yeah, I mean, I think I give it more of I would say it's a 4 star out of 5 for me. I won't be rushing to rewatch it because of obviously what it is like in the source material. Well, not source material, but the material, like what you're watching.
It's not subject matter.
Yeah, it's not a fun film, but I think I don't want to be that guy, but it's an important one. But it's a really I would like to say it's great at kind of like putting you in there and making you feel, I guess, quite neutral really for everyone except the poor family involved. I can't believe people are saying it's a propaganda piece. And it seems quite odd to me, and it's almost we never really answered Patch's question, but I don't think films like this about war will ever be viewed as a centrist piece, because there will always be someone on one side that will just want to hate on it because for whatever reason, like they disagree with war, or there's not enough politics involved to show what's really happening. Like I guess with the stuff that is going on in the world at the moment with like Israel and Palestine and stuff, that will be something in years to come. That's got very defined kind of sides, and people are really kind of quite clear on who they think is in the wrong. So it's weird to see those films like that, because someone's always going to pick a side, and people hate films about war and they think everything's propaganda. So there will be people out there that won't be able to see the wood for the trees, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? But for me, I had no feeling of this feeling like propaganda, and I would say it. I felt genuinely like it was. I suppose it's not neutral because it's from their perspective, but what I would say is it felt sympathetic to pretty much all. And it's a tough one, isn't it? I don't know. I haven't got the answers here, but I think, look, if you want, I say you want an experience. If you want to try and understand what these people go through, I feel like this is the closest as we'll ever get to it, and I think it did a very good way of showcasing that. But yeah. I never felt like it was glorifying or promoting or any of the above. If people feel that way, it's yeah, that's a shame. But that's not.
Well,
what I think
it's a shame. I also think they've missed the point as well a little bit. But anyway, a couple of questions just to round us off, John. Are plot and story required to drive a narrative?
So this is like a situation film, isn't it? So what I mean by that is it's basically like almost like Phone Booth, single location and things happen, but Phone Booth.
What a film, by the way, Phone Booth, man! What a film!
Very much the other end of the spectrum in terms of action. But what I was going to say was that's probably got more narrative going on with it. This, as we said, felt more documentary. It's like you're just witnessing it happen. I feel like this was in line with Zone of Interest. I feel like that's another film which is very narrative light, plot light, but
do you know
just
what?
kind of
You've nailed that,
showcasing
actually.
this.
Yeah, you've nailed that. Isn't it around this time? No, it was more of a January thing, actually, when we seen Zone of Interest in 2024. But yeah, I mean, you've got stuff like The Red Turtle maybe came to mind when that question came in. I don't particularly... I would say films that don't have a plot or narrative don't necessarily work for me as much, because the whole point of a film for me is to have some kind of plot and some kind of end game. I would say this is more plot.
It still has a
driven.
beginning, middle, end.
It's still exactly. Yeah, it
There's
still
an
has
objective. There's an objective, if nothing else. Some of those films, like you said, may not have an objective. I feel like A Zone of Interest was just like a mood piece of that was narrative light. There was no aim for the story. It was just this is what happened, and look at how not phased these people are by the atrocities going on, and they're just living their life, and how shocking is that? And this isn't a criticism. Like, we rate that film very highly, but I'm saying that
of course,
shows that these kind of films can work, which are very plot light. However, out of preference, I prefer films with more plot, probably because they're easier to rewatch. Like, I think this film is technically like so well executed, and like felt like a really good depiction on either high star rating. But in terms of rewatch, I think things with a narrative or a story you can follow are inevitably what we go back to. Like, when you're a child and you read stories, you like to read stories because you know the end, right? And you know, like, the narrative journey of beginning, middle, end, and that's what we seek as an audience.
Exactly.
And that's easier for us to relate to because that's just what we're brought up with, basically. I think it's just ingrained into us, just one of those things.
Yeah, 100%. Right, last question then. Kate Reviews Films writes in for the first time in a while. Where have you been, Kate? Do you still listen to the pod? Hey, where have you been? Where are you? And anyway, maybe because she gets abused, she doesn't write in 'cause I've just kind of outed her. Anyway, hope you're okay. She says, is this the Garland Redeemer? So obviously, I assume the question is aimed at me because I'm the person that
I've not actually. Yeah. Do you know what I realised on this? I've seen basically everything he's written. I've pretty much seen, and then everything he's directed. I don't think I've seen any of them. Haven't seen Annihilation. Haven't seen.
You've seen Ex Machina.
Did he direct that as well?
He directed Ex Machina, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I like that
one. Yeah, so the only one I haven't seen is Men. So, I mean, from the 4 films that I've seen of his, I really like 2. So the 2 that I like, I love. And the 2 that I dislike, I really don't like. This is a redeemer. Do you know what? And it's just another example of just continuously giving things a shot. Especially when I would say that the things that Alex Garland does are always quite interesting. So Civil War was interesting, although I didn't like it. There's a lot of good ideas in there.
It's different,
Annihilation. Yeah, exactly. And the other director I would say that comes into that bracket is probably always a bit more of a one note. But Wes Anderson, there are some films of his that I love, and there are some films that I just don't really work for me. Grand Budapest Hotel, not that bothered. Rushmore though, and Royal Tenenbaums, absolutely love them. Fantastic Mr. Fox, it's pretty good. He's very just a hit or miss for me, and I think because he's got that very specific style of everything's got to be symmetrical, all that kind of stuff. But I will still give every single one of his films a go because I'm there's probably something good in here. Sometimes I just got to be in the mood though. I still haven't seen The French Dispatch. Is that the newest one he's done? I don't think it is. No, he's done one after that. Well, I haven't seen his newest one, which I'm just going to have a look at what that is. I was going to
say though, it's we don't have to just say we love everything a director does. We can dislike stuff. There's David Fincher films I don't like. I don't love.
No,
the
there's
game.
not.
No, there is. I don't love The Game, and I don't love Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button associated with The Bad Date, as we joked
Speaking
about
of Kate, she's going to be raging about that because she loves that.
But just, do you know what, though? I haven't rewatched it since my terrible cinema experience of 2008, so maybe I'll rewatch it and like it, but I can't imagine I'll love it.
I don't like...
what I was going to say was, even Hitchcock, I love Hitchcock, but there's some bad Hitchcock films. I hate Torn Curtain. Hate's strong, but, it's really bad. There's a lot wrong with it. So, but... just appreciate the fact that with Alex Garland, he is doing different things. I do think he's a really good writer, and I feel like maybe it's okay to be a stronger writer than director, but then there are films where I think Ex Machina is a really well directed film. I think it looks great. I think.
Can you imagine if him and Zack Snyder teamed up? Can you imagine if him and Zack Snyder teamed up? Yeah, he writes. I don't know what he writes. I don't know what I'm to.
For some
he writes.
it would have
Zack Snyder directs.
Snyder writes it and he directs. Who knows? But anyway, whatever. It's
the
fine.
film I was thinking of, by the way. Sorry, the film I was thinking of was Asteroid City. We keep talking over each other. I think there might be some slight delay, which is quite annoying. So I do apologise to the listeners for that.
Sorry.
But yeah, look, we'll continue as we always say. We're just always going to be honest. I'm not going to hate on this film just because I dislike most of. Well, I don't. It's now half. He's now half, 50% in, 50% out. We're just here to tell the truth, But yeah, it's how long are we running there, John? Are we doing all right?
About 40 minutes. Pretty good.
Oh, we've done fantastically well. So this time you get around a 40-odd minute episode. But before we go, obviously, as you know, you can go on a little Spotify, rate us 5 stars because we only accept 5 stars. You can go on Apple, give us 5 stars on there. It genuinely really does help us out because we go to the top of when people search for film podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. John did upload his edit last week.
I did upload it. I was so proud of myself as well. Yeah.
Oh, I was so proud of a professional videographer for remembering to upload the pod to the YouTube. It's ridiculous. To be honest, you're not even getting a pat on the back for it. It's just what you should do. Anyway, find us on YouTube. And Tony, you can find us only if you search all one word though. So yeah, find us on YouTube and subscribe. That'd be really nice. And you can go on moviesinapodshell.sumupstore.com and buy some t-shirts. We have just paid for Riverside for one more year, so you get another year out of us, baby. But obviously we need to pay for that, so if you buy a little T-shirt, it genuinely really does help when John gets a surprise, I don't know, a couple of £100 to come out of his bank account.
Honestly.
Naughty there, Riverside, eh? Naughty. Especially when you've been skipping all night, John. You've been going, and I've just been having to pretend I know what you're saying, so...
So
yeah,
you've been skipping for
good.
me as well. So look forward to playing this back and seeing where we're at. Happy
The
days.
money comes out. Do you know what? It's almost like we pay them in full up front for a whole year, and then they start messing around again, and I've just about had enough of it. Anyway, John, we'll be back again. Well, maybe next week or in a couple of weeks. You're away next week, John, are you? Did I make that up?
I think you're making that up, but it's fine. We'll sort it out.
John's house will be attended.
Watching
so yeah,
10 episodes of Buffy in a row.
10 episodes of Buffy in a row. But anyway, John, anything else you want to say?
Bye.
Down to war, you know. As in, that sounds like I'm down to go to war. Down with war. Bye.